That's one of the things I wish all of us as leaders would do, that leadership is not just a title. Leadership is not just a position, that leadership is actually a professional pursuit. If we're not dead, then we're not done growing. Leading people, it's going to be messy. It's like herding cats. And I think sometimes leaders don't come into leadership with their eyes wide open to that.
You're listening to the Limitless Leadership Podcast, the podcast designed to help automotive repair shops learn how to lead, coach, train, and manage their team better by sharing proven techniques and thought-provoking interviews from industry leaders. Are you ready to transform your leadership skills by tapping into unrecognized potential to achieve limitless results? Let's get ready for liftoff. It's time to go from great to greater. Here's today's episode.
Hey folks, running an auto repair shop, it's tough. We know that. And between managing repairs, keeping customers happy, and handling front office tasks, there's never enough time in the day. That's where Hub Shop Solutions comes in. Hub takes the burden off your team by building fast, accurate repair estimates and handling extended warranties, so you can focus on what really matters, running a profitable, efficient shop. With Hub, you free up your team, you boost efficiency, and you increase profits. So sign up now and get free onboarding. Visit hubshopsolutions.com to schedule a demo today. Hub Shop Solutions. Unlock your shop's full potential. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Limitless Leadership Podcast. My name is Josh Parnell, and before we get started, as always, I'm going to ask you to like, comment, subscribe, do all the things you need to on social media to help this podcast reach people and build more leaders. You know that is our mission. And speaking of leaders, I'm joined by a leader on a mission, a friend of mine, someone who I actually met through social media, just a random TikTok encounter of all places. But our guest today is a pastor at his church in the Atlanta, Georgia area. He's also a leadership coach, coaching a lot of incredible leaders. Our guest today is my friend, Bobby McGraw. Bobby, thanks for being here.
Hey, Josh, what a treat to get to be on here, and how fun to meet somebody from TikTok in real life.
Right? I'll say you're a first for me. And the cool thing is, like, if you're on social media, whether it's TikTok or Instagram or all these other socials that I'm not aware of, you see people in these spaces that are similar to yours, and they're making an impact and they're making a difference. And I often talk about how this is the size of, like, this is the assignment that we're in right now. Like, this is the assignment. And while our current assignment may not be our final assignment, we can't let the size of our assignment dictate the significance of our impact. And I saw Bobby followed me on TikTok, and I did my natural response of, hey, thanks for following. Be sure to check out the Limitless Leadership Podcast. But then I looked at your page, and man, Bobby McGraw is delivering some fire across the leadership space and even the across his church. And I love the type of vibe that the type of energy that you provide. And so I was like, I got to get this guy on the podcast. And so I'm so thankful that you're here, man.
Well, it's such a treat for me. And I'll just say, if people are not following you on the socials, they ought to do it, because I don't know about you, but the algorithm oftentimes just serves up all the fear stuff and anxiety and the drama in the world. And so when I was scrolling one day, I saw a clip from one of your podcasts. I was like, man, this is so good. And so I liked it. I followed. I was like, I want more of this showing up in my feed. And then for you to say thanks for the follow, and then to come back a couple of days later to say, hey, let's connect. It's just an honor. And since then, I've been devouring the podcast and love it. So thankful. Thank you for pouring into leaders, because we need it. We absolutely need it.
Well, I appreciate you, Bobby, and thank you for doing the same. I'm excited for our audience to get to know who you are, what you do, how you do it. Most of our audience is in the automotive repair space, but as we all know, that leadership can be applied in anywhere, in any form or fashion, in any industry. And so I love getting leaders from outside of our industry to help shed some light on some things that maybe we don't see, and to help provide perspective on things that maybe we're not viewing right now. And so with that being said, if you would, Bobby, go ahead and share with the audience who you are, what you do, and how you do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, again, I'm in the Atlanta, Georgia area. I've been married to my wife for 14 years, she's the better half. And she's been one of the biggest catalysts in me wanting to become a better leader, because when you get married to somebody that's different than you realize, man, I've got some growing to do. So it's been a cool journey. We don't have any kiddos, but we do have a 10-pound boss dog that thinks he owns the house and tries to boss us around. And by day, I love getting to serve at my church. I help lead a team of over 40 people and over 400 volunteers on a weekly basis. And we're reaching thousands of people in the Atlanta area, primarily by serving our community in schools. And then I love getting to spend time with leaders. I coach executive leaders. I come into different organizations and help shape the culture that they want to be more life-giving. And I love that in both places, whether in church or in the coaching space, I'm able to stand with people that are at the intersection of major life decisions and help them make the next step their best step. And so I love in both worlds, it's all about people and personal growth. And so I'm grateful to get to partner with people and walk alongside them.
Love that. Couldn't agree more. It's about people. It's about personal growth. One of the things that you just shared is something that I don't want to glaze over. You talked about how you're formally leading over 40 people, but you're also leading over 400 volunteers. Let me ask you, my first question to you, Bobby, is we know how challenging leadership is as a whole. Like I believe that leadership is a full-time job.
Yes.
But I typically talk about leading people who are employees or team members or paid team members. What is it like to lead, and how do you lead and influence over 400 volunteers?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's tricky. I mean, it's one thing for people to get a paycheck from you. And so in some regard, they have to follow you to some degree if they want to eat and have a roof over their head. But when you're thinking about volunteers, they vote with their feet every single week. In our world, most things revolve around Sunday. Sunday's coming. And what I found is at the end of the day, people respond to a vision that's bigger than them. And so as a leader, one of the things that we get to do is we get to be a picture painter. And what I mean by that is we get to paint a picture that's big enough, that's inspiring enough, that's bigger than the day-to-day and the mundane that we live in, that it's exciting, that it causes people to wake up and say, I want to be part of that. But at the same time, we also have to spend time painting in little details so that that person can see where they fit in the picture. And so it's a both and. It's like there's a big part of here's why this matters, but then there's a small part to say, and you're part of that. You can take a step towards that. And I find that people come alive when they feel like they're giving their lives to something bigger than themselves.
That's so good. You talked about the importance of casting a clear vision. And I love the analogy that you just shared in regards to painting a picture. Not only are you painting a large picture that has the vision that hopefully is clear enough for people to buy into and to believe in, but also adding in where that specific person fits into the team. As Jim Collins would talk about in Good to Great, you're getting the right people on the bus and getting the wrong people off the bus. How do you paint this picture in a way for each person who has different personalities, who have different leadership styles, and including how they receive being led? How do you paint this picture in a way that everyone still believes in the vision that you've cast, but also they understand they have a seat at the table? All right, folks, as you know, great leadership isn't about doing everything the best. It's actually about having the right partners in your corner to build your shop's success. It's about putting the right team in place. It's about choosing the right vendors to make you a pro, making pro moves. And when I think about the pros, I think about Shop Marketing Pros. The know, like, and trust factor, that's a real thing. And Shop Marketing Pros understands that. That's why I want to recommend Shop Marketing Pros to become your marketing partner in your shop. They get to know, like, and trust you and your business to then help your audience get to know, like, and trust you too, and bring your shop to the next level. So when I talk about making pro moves, this is the kind of move I'm talking about. This is the kind of standard-setting partnership that's going to elevate your shop. So if you're ready to become a pro in your shop, visit shopmarketingpros.com and partner with the best.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one of the phrases that's helped shaped the last decade of my life is right behind me. It says, your story matters. And I think a lot of times, especially in leadership culture, there can be this bias towards one personality type. And so we have this picture, especially in Western culture, it's not as much when you travel around the world, but especially in Western mentality, we often think of the high driving, high D, like big personality. And if we're not careful, we'll paint that picture where people don't see themselves as leaders. But my firm belief is that every single person has something to give. Like every single person has a story. It's very unique to them. It's made up of their personality. It's made up of their family of origin, how they grew up. It's made up of all the circumstances in their life. And if every single person can see those moments as preparation for the next season, they can lead in a powerful way. And so it starts with a leader just valuing people, like really valuing people. Because if we're not careful as leaders, we won't say this out loud, but internally, we'll think that other people are flawed versions of us. In other words, we think our style is the only style. We think our way is the only way. But the truth is, that's not so. We need everybody. And so it starts with the leader's mentality of belief. Do you believe in people? Do you believe that they have an important contribution they can make, regardless if they look like you, talk like you, if they have the same wiring as you, they bring something to the table.
I heard someone say once, I attended a training, this is probably 5 or 6 years ago, and there was someone in the audience who shared something that I don't think I'll ever forget. And she said something to the effect of, if we knew everyone's story, how could we not love that person? Everyone has been through things. We've all gone through things. We've all grown through things, but everyone is feeling something. They've been through something, and they have this perspective because of their upbringing and their life experience that nobody else has, which makes them influential. And that means we're contagious. We can either infect or we can affect. And for any of us who are contagious and we want to affect change, that makes you a change agent. And anyone who's a change agent is a leader. So what I'm hearing you say, Bobby, is that everyone does have leadership within them because of their level of influence, because of the story that they have and the story that deserves to be told. One of your core ideas that we've talked about off air is how leadership is a profession. Can you get into this concept of how everyone is a leader and also how leadership is a profession?
Yeah, a great question. I don't know if you've ever seen the book by Stephen Pressfield about going pro. Does that phrase mean anything to you? So Stephen Pressfield's an amazing author, and when he first started writing, he did not think of himself as a writer, but at some point he had to declare it like this, and essentially he had to lean in and say, I'm going pro.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I wish all of us as leaders would do, that leadership is not just a title. Leadership is not just a position, that leadership is actually a professional pursuit. And so one of my core beliefs is that we need to go pro or go home as leaders. And what I mean by that is when I take my car to the shop, I don't want the person working on my car to say, I just sort of figured it out on YouTube. Hey, I was on TikTok and I saw this little trick and I thought, hey, here's Bobby's car. Let's give it a try. No, the people that I trust are people that, yes, maybe they're naturally inclined to do it, but they don't stop there. They make it their pursuit. So they train, they go to school, they get the certifications. They don't stop at the basis. They keep growing. And what would happen if leaders did the same things? Like when I get on an airplane later this week, I don't want an untrained pilot. When I get on an airplane, I don't want one that says, hey, I'm just going to put it in autopilot. And I don't think we should do that in leadership either. And sometimes if we're not careful as leaders, we'll stop at the title or we'll stop at the position. And I really believe that all of us, man, you've got some great leaders listening to this podcast. I know that and watching this, but I think all of us can get better. I certainly can. I don't speak for everybody, but I know I can keep growing. And so my encouragement is to go pro, become a professional leader.
Bobby, I love what you just shared. It kind of coincides with my own concept of think like a rookie, which is where when you think like a rookie and you're a pro at this point, like you became a pro, but you're thinking like a rookie, which means that they have a long way to go and a long way to grow. Like you're committed to being a lifelong learner. You're committed to figuring it out and understanding that you're never going to have all the answers. Even as leaders, you're never going to have all the answers.
That's right.
You're never going to know everything. And you may not even know even which decisions or direction to go in, but because every person matters, because every story matters, because you have this team around you, multiple minds are better than one, and collectively you can be pros. Our one of our podcast sponsors is Shop Marketing Pros, and they talk about going pro, and it's the same kind of concept that you're talking about. It's like, look, if you're going to go pro, like if you're going to do anything, like the way we do anything is the way we do everything. But the way way we do everything, if it's done at a pro level where you're taking ownership of it, it's going to go a long way. And furthermore, when you talk about how leadership is not a title, I love that you said, look, we're not just going to stop at the fact that I have this title. if I'm going to think like a rookie and be a pro, I'm going to be committing to being a lifelong learner and learning and understanding how I can get better every day.
Yeah. And so for some people listening, maybe it's blocking time. Like, do you have time that you're working on your leadership, not just your trade, but on the unseen parts of being a leader? Or maybe it's even just asking for feedback. Like, that's super powerful, that if you huddle up with your team to ask the question, is there something I could do that could help me be a better leader for you? Like, are there things that are getting in my way? And then just pick something. Just like if there's a certification you're going after, pick a leadership skill, whether it's delegation or handling conflict or leading from a place of vision. Pick one of those skills and just spend time on it, because you can get better at it over time.
Bobby, you just talked about asking for feedback.
Yes.
Speak to the listening audience who struggles with asking for feedback for the sake of getting true feedback versus for the sake of getting confirmation.
Absolutely. I mean, if I'm honest, when I ask for feedback, I do want some confirmation. Like, we're all human. Yeah. So welcome to planet Earth. We're all human. We love being affirmed. Mm-hmm. And sometimes even people we don't think need being affirmed. Sometimes the strongest leaders I know, they look tough on the outside, but on the inside, they're still hungry for that. Mm-hmm. So, it's an honest thing. But the second piece is feedback isn't meant to be fatal. When we get feedback from our teams, it can actually be formational. And what I mean by that is one of the most powerful tools that helped me in my leadership journey about 8 years ago was when I had my coach perform a 360-degree feedback on me, where I sent out an anonymous survey to the people that I report to the people that I serve beside, and the people that report up to me. And they literally got to rate me on about 80 different leadership competencies. And then they were able to do some short paragraph kind of answers. And when I got that feedback, honestly, human nature is, what did I get wrong? But most of the time, you're doing a lot right. But there are 3 to 5 themes that typically come to the surface. And so for me, those 3 to 5 themes became my personal development plan for the next 3 years. And so for me, yes, it was tough reading some of it, but at the same time, it was a gift, because if we're not dead, then we're not done growing. And instead of me guessing what I need to do to grow, that feedback gave me a powerful platform to actually focus on the things that matter. And fortunately, several years later, I redid the 360. And the good news was those 3 things all improved. The bad news is there's always something to work on. So I think it's super powerful to ask a question, even to our teams, to say, what's it like to be on the other side of me? What's it like to be on the other side of my leadership? And is there anything I'm blind to? Is there anything I'm missing that you think would help us move forward as a team?
Bobby, I wish I could take this mic and just pass it through the Zoom call, and so you can drop it, because everything you shared just now was straight fire. Like, it was incredible. There's power in perspective. And with perspective, the way that we view things drives the way that we do things. And what we know is that knowledge without action is just information. Yeah. So you got a lot of knowledge 3 to 5 years ago. And fortunately, a lot of it was good, affirming knowledge that, hey, I'm doing a lot of things well. But there were a few things that you identified that maybe I need to improve on. And kudos to you for not just getting the results, getting the feedback, and just being mindful of it, but really taking action on applying what's necessary to grow through that feedback. Because ultimately, you're not only doing it for yourself, you're doing it for your team, you're doing it for your family. And when you can be when you can be provided what your areas of opportunity are and potential blind spots that you have, and you can make changes in those, man, you are making significant improvements to being the pro that you're destined to be. So kudos to you for applying that knowledge.
Well, thanks for saying that. And honestly, it's a gift, because the stress went down in my life. I remember one night I was sitting next to my wife, Laura, on the couch watching TV. We're of the age that we like watching Wheel of Fortune together. Sorry about that. And I remember her looking over.
That's funny.
What's that?
My wife and I do the same thing.
Yeah, good.
Relate to that.
She looked over at me one of those evenings and she said, whatever you're doing, keep doing it, because I can see a difference. Love that. And that was so affirming. And that's just a reminder that leadership isn't just about results in the organization, and it's not just about how we lead our teams, but it affects every part of us, that we're one person. My buddy Michael Hyatt says we need to win at work and succeed at life. Those are not two diametric things that can't happen. And so if I can become a healthier me, it's going to impact my leadership positively, and it's going to impact the rest of my life. And so we're one person. So anytime part of us gets healthier, the rest of us gets healthier as well.
That's so good. And you talked about how you received this feedback and this initial exercise or direction from your own coach. Just because you're a coach doesn't mean that you don't have a coach. I myself have a coach as well. I work with a counselor often. Everyone on this podcast knows that I have a coach, I have a counselor, and I'm married to a counselor. So I get free counseling even when I don't want it, which is all the time. But she's great at it, and I need it. And I think it's important for me to emphasize the fact that every leader should have a coach. Every coach should have a coach. There's always someone who is there as long as we can trust them to speak truth into our life. If we feel safe with them, if we trust them, and everyone should have someone like that in their life. My hope and prayer is that you have someone like that in your life, but find someone, whether it be a mentor, a coach, a supporter, a cheerleader, someone who you're willing to allow to speak truth into your life, and your life can significantly improve because of the direction that they're providing and the perspective they're sharing with you.
I've never met anybody that regretted having a coach in their life. I've never met anybody that regretted having somebody that could help them find strength, somebody that could speak truth and, directly to them, somebody that could stand with them honestly when they needed somebody to help them find strength.
So good. So good. So we talked about 3 core ideas prior to going on air. The first we talked about was leadership as a profession. The second is that we want to embrace the messiness of teams. I love this topic. I'm excited for you to dive into this and what you mean by that, embracing the messiness of teams.
Yeah, and I'd love to hear your feedback on it. But here's the truth. I've got a friend that says it this way. Sometimes people are peoply. And I don't know how profound that is, but leading people, it's going to be messy. It's like herding cats. And I think sometimes leaders don't come into leadership with their eyes wide open to that. It's almost like we expect people to be perfect. We expect people to do exactly what we say, when we say, and all of these things. But the truth is, all of us bring baggage. All of us bring past experiences, good or bad. All of us bring families with us and ways of handling conflict and communication. And so underneath the surface of every single person we lead, there's this invisible operating system. Like, operating systems are great. I'm talking to you on a Mac today. And when the operating system is working well, I don't think about it. Like, I just click on the icon. I just click the join button. Everything works well. But the moment that on a Mac, you get that spinning wheel, or on Windows, you get the blue screen of death, the moment that operating system melts down, something's up. Well, the hard part in leadership is a lot of what happens is underneath the surface. And so when somebody comes onto our team, they don't come with an instruction manual. They don't come with, here's how we handled conflict when I was growing up. This is my communication style. This is my wiring. And so what ends up happening is you could have 2 great team members where one team member sees silence as being that the other person must be angry at them. If somebody goes silent, man, that person's angry. Where the other person might see silence as time to process and figure out the next best step. But what's interesting is 2 people are responding to the exact same moment in totally different ways, and it's underneath the surface. And so when you get 2 people in the room, you get 10 people in the room, when you're huddling up in the bay, no wonder conflict happens. No wonder people get sideways with each other. No wonder that one little comment sets somebody off. It's not really that comment. It's the story that happened in their history that they're bringing to the table. And so in psychology, they call it things like family of origin, that operating system that your family operated under. Sometimes they talk about things like meaning assignment, where you take one bad experience and you apply it to every other situation. Sometimes there's confirmation bias, where once you think this is the way someone shows up, you find every fault in them. And so none of us as leaders necessarily need to be professional psychologists, but we do need to at least be aware that there's more than meets the eye, that oftentimes there's this invisible thing going on. So again, you don't need to be able to diagnose it, but at least be aware of it and know that there are other things at stake.
I'll say it again. This is why leadership is a full-time job. You said people are people-y. The way I say it is people are going to people. And
Yes.
there's a
That's
great
great.
book by Pastor Chad Veach, Help, I Work with People. Like that's the title of the book.
I love that.
And there's even like a life preserver on the cover of the book because of exactly what you just talked about. People are going to people. Everyone is different. And this is what I call situational leadership. And I shouldn't say I call it this. I mean, this is a common term in across leadership, but situational leadership is when we're adapting to the needs of a situation and adapting to the needs and the abilities of those that we're leading. And people are going to people, so we got to expect to lead.
Yeah, it's going to happen. I'm going to do it. So why wouldn't I expect other people to do it? So here's what ends up happening is if we're not careful, we will judge other people and we'll assume we know their motives. I can't believe Josh. I can't believe, man, he cut me off. I can't believe he did that thing. But then when we do the same thing, we give ourselves the benefit of the doubt. I just had a bad day. I didn't sleep well last night. Things are just tense at the moment. What would happen if instead of accusing other people first, what would happen if we self-accuse first? What was it about my leadership that brought that out of them? What did I do? And then a second piece may be just to acknowledge it. Like, what would happen if we huddled up with our teams and just said, hey, man, there are going to be times that we get sideways. There's going to be times that we misalign, but isn't it great that we get to work in a place where it's safe to talk about things that matter? And when those things happen, we can course correct. Isn't that great? And in some ways, you normalize messiness because when you don't normalize it, it feels extreme. It feels, like it's going to throw us off. But if we can normalize it, if we can teach our teams to say, let's pause before we react. So instead of just, diving in, pause for a moment, ask open-ended questions instead of assuming we know, come from a place of curiosity. And when somebody has a different viewpoint, acknowledge that, acknowledge their reality. Those are all great leadership skills. And again, you talked about it. It's a lifelong, it's a full-time job. And so the more that we can learn in these moments to help navigate people issues, the better leader we'll be and the healthier our teams will be.
That is so good. Bobby, you are speaking and preaching my language, man. I mean, like I call it assuming positive intent. Like I have the 5 steps to effective communication. And the first step is to assume positive intent. And even just pausing, the power of the pause. Like to me, there's this 3-step process with regulating our emotions, which is one of the greatest skill sets I think any person, especially a leader, can possess, which is to pause, process, and pivot. And we can do a whole other deep dive on another episode. But when you pause, you process, and pivot, you're able to make healthy, more logical, rational decisions across a team of messiness.
Yeah, I love that framework because it's so powerful. Most people think that they don't have a choice. They just react in the moment. And oftentimes what ends up happening is we take the bait on negative emotions. Now, it's okay to have negative emotions. I'm not saying as a leader, you need to be positive. It's okay to have negative emotions. But what would happen as leaders if we described that emotion instead of demonstrated it? In other words, what would happen if instead of bursting out, we described it to our people? My buddy, Kent Julian, has a new book out called E+R=O. And it's this idea we have an experience and we have an outcome, but the thing in the middle that can make the difference is how we choose to respond. And a lot of times the amateur leader, the unskilled leader will react. They'll take the bait. They'll allow their internal story to shape how they show up. But the professional leader says, I'm going to hit pause and I'm going to respond appropriately. And sometimes that response is more gentle. Sometimes that response is more firm, but you alluded to this. I don't remember how you said it exactly, but internally asking that question, what do they need right now? What do they need?
Yeah. Sometimes
when you go to the doctor, a great doctor doesn't just let you walk in and say, hey, just give me the script that you gave me last time. A doctor will look at you. They'll look at the symptoms. They'll ask you some questions and they will ask in this moment, what is the exact medicine Josh needs today? And I think that's a great metaphor for us as leaders to say there are going to be moments where the medicine is one thing for a person and it's totally different for another person. So learning in that moment to ask, what do they need? Do they need more clarity? Do they need more support? Do they have the tools that they need, the resources they need? Do they need more accountability? Do they need more frequent check-ins? What do they need? And that's really powerful in helping navigate the messiness.
You just said the word I was going to describe what you just shared, which is powerful. Ultimately, we know that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
That's right.
And so as long as we can create safety and trust, we can then provide the clarity and direction on the things that they need. And what you just described, I'll say it again, it's powerful, Bobby, because you're emphasizing and reiterating how important it is to make sure that every team member's voice is heard, their opinions matter, their ideas are considered. And if you're showing up for them in a way that they feel safe and they trust you, man, powerful things can occur. I mean, your culture starts to change.
Yes.
So I want to get into the third core idea that we address off air, and then I'm going to ask you some questions I ask every guest on the Limitless Leadership podcast. But the third core idea is avoiding the two extremes. And so you call this the leadership squeeze, where you want to abandon on one side and abuse on the other. Can you elaborate on what the avoiding the two extremes means?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think in leadership, there's sort of two tilts that leaders typically have. One is a tilt towards relationships, where you prioritize team unity and you really focus on being a relational leader. The other side is what I would call results. And it's the bottom line. It's delivering what the mission of our organization is. And sometimes, not every time, but a lot of times, leaders will lean one direction or the other, and they'll see the other direction as the enemy. And so here's what I mean by that. Sometimes when somebody leans towards relationship, that's what I would call an abandoned posture. In our coaching, we have this framework called the middle way. And on the abandoned side, this is when somebody becomes absentee. They leave you lost. They don't give you the time that you need, the clarity that you need. And so on one side, one extreme is abandon. The other extreme is what I would call abuse. And that's where they're hovering over you and they're suffocating you. And sometimes the same leader can show up in both directions, where one week you can't get a hold of them. One week you don't know where they are. There's no check-ins. There's no affirmation. There's no clear direction. But then other weeks they're sending you 14 emails or text messages, and they're asking you what settings you were using when you're doing whatever job. And so to a lot of leaders, that feels like a squeeze, where on one side, you don't have the support you need. On the other side, you've got this micromanage. But what a gift would it be if we showed up in the middle? What if we took a third option view of leadership to say it's not abandoned, it's not abused, but it's showing up with a healthy balance of both? And I think professional leaders begin to figure out, how do I show up in a place of virtue? How do I show up in a place that helps provide support, but appropriate challenge? That results and relationships can go together. And when I talk to a lot of leaders, they're all about results. But then when I sit with them in a coaching session, I say, hey, describe to me some of the best leaders you've ever worked for. 99% of the things that they list are relational. Mm-hmm. And because they were relational, guess what? They got great results. And so for some leaders, they throw relationship out the window. And I would say it may feel slow on the front end, but over time, it can drive even better results on the back end.
Man, I'm literally getting goosebumps because of the things that you're sharing, Bobby. Like, this is the kind of stuff this is really how Limitless Leadership teaches and coaches in our industry as well, because we know that connection creates engagement, and engagement is what increases performance. And this is important because 70% of team members are disengaged at work. And so when we focus on the relationship before the transaction, the relationship before the result, it's the connection before the content. This is why we see when the leader gets better, everyone gets better. And the beauty in all of this is that the results that you really want to begin with in terms of production and revenue and the KPIs increasing, it's a byproduct of the relationship that you focus on.
That's it.
It's incredible.
Because at that point, you're not just getting their hands, but you're getting their heart. And when you've got a person's heart, whether they get a paycheck or in my context, sometimes it's a volunteer, they're willing to go the extra mile. They're willing to go the extra mile. And so how powerful it is to say, hey, relationships are not a distraction. They're so important.
Yeah, they're pivotal. Love this. So let me ask you, Bobby, first, I want to just pause and say thank you. Like, thank you for all the nuggets of information, the wealth of knowledge that you're bringing to this podcast. I think this is incredible stuff. In your own words, if I were to ask you, what does leadership mean to you? How would you answer that question?
Yeah, it's a great question. I love that you asked this of all the people that are on your podcast. When I think about leadership, I think of it like a trust. I think of leadership. I don't know if you've heard this quote before, but I love this idea that leadership is a stewardship. It's temporary, and you're going to be held accountable for it. And so when I think about leadership, I don't know how long I'm going to be leading the people I lead. My hope is when somebody's a part of my team, I get to lead them for a long, long time. But even if we're not together for a long, long time, when they leave, and every person's going to leave us, I hope that they'll look back and they'll say, I grew under Bobby's leadership. I grew from the time that I was with them. And so when I think about leadership, when I think about it being a stewardship, what I'm saying is it's more than a title. It's more than a position. It really is a trust. And it's this opportunity to say, as best as I can, I'm going to invest in these people because I'm for them, regardless if they work for me or with me for the rest of our lives. I am for them as a person.
I love that you just touched on regardless of if they're with me or not in a formal sense.
Yeah.
One of my favorite quotes from Richard Branson, founder of Virgin Records. He says, train people well enough so they can leave, treat them well enough so that they don't want to. However, I like to add to this quote and say, if you're doing your job as a leader, if you're investing in your team members, if you're pouring into your people, the likelihood of them leaving is actually high because you're developing them in a way where they can go and do bigger and better things, capture bigger opportunities. So it's not a matter of if they leave, but when they leave, celebrate their departure. You did your job. And as long as you're pouring into every single one of your team members, when they leave, you're no longer having to rebuild. You're simply having to reload. And that's powerful because it's this next man up mentality. And you're kind of creating almost like this. It's like a leadership tree, just like in football, you hear about the coaching trees, and you got these folks who used to coach under this particular coach, and then they became head coaches, and they're creating this coaching tree. The same can be said in leadership. You're focused on growing and developing people, and it allows them to go and do bigger and better things, capture bigger opportunities for themselves and their family, and you're celebrating that departure. You're not saying, oh, I can't believe they left me after all the years I poured into them. You want to celebrate that departure. I like that you just touched on that.
Oh, I love that concept because everybody's going to leave us. I mean, in a parenting context, that's every parent. You're preparing your kid to leave you. Like the goal isn't for them to stay with you the rest of their lives. Like you want them to launch into the world, and you want them to have the things that they need emotionally, spiritually, leadership wise, all the things. And I think that's a healthy perspective when it comes to leading in the workplace as well. Man, I hope we get to serve together a long, long time. But at the end of the day, it's a stewardship. They're not mine. They're not my employees. We're in this for a season. And one day I'm not going to be the leader anymore. So I want to leave it better than I found it.
Leadership is a stewardship. It's temporary, and you're going to be held accountable for it. I love the fact that you emphasize that phrase. My last question to you, Bobby, is what is the best advice you've ever received from a coach or a mentor?
One of the things that is my personal temptation, and this may be true of a lot of the leaders that listen and watch your podcast, is I can give a lot of grace to the people around me, but I can be very critical on myself. I can be my worst critic. And one of the best pieces of advice that has really helped me become a healthier leader, a healthier husband, a healthier pastor, a healthier leadership coach is this one piece of advice, to adopt a journey mindset. My temptation is to have a pass or fail mentality. My temptation when I'm looking at other people, if I was sitting with you in coffee, Josh, I would give you all the grace in the world. I would say, man, life is messy. People get peoply. I would give you a lot of space, but in my own life, I will second guess and I'll be so critical on myself. And that doesn't serve anybody well. When we're our own worst critic, when we are hard on self, it hurts us both personally, but it also hurts us professionally. And so this idea of adopting a journey mindset. And in my coaching, I've had the privilege of coaching a couple of fighter pilots. And when I was in the military, I was just a radio operator. So I never got up in the plane, but I love pilots. And when I talked to these fighter pilots and asked them about their flight plan, when you look at it on a map, it looks like this straight line. It looks like we're going from here to here. And it's going to be great. But when you ask them, how often are you actually on that flight plan? It's very rare because they're making these course adjustments along the way.
Yeah.
And that metaphor is super helpful in leadership, that instead of having this pass or fail mentality, to see every single day as a piece of the journey. And there's going to be some days that I show up well and I can celebrate that, but there's going to be days that I don't show up the way that I wanted to. And I'm going to give myself grace and to say, it's the journey. I'm not done yet. And I want to do the same thing for my team. I want to give them grace. Don't I want that from them? If I have a tough season, if I have a bad day, don't I want them to give me the benefit of the doubt? So why wouldn't I do that for them to say, you know what? I'm not gonna judge somebody based on one moment or one comment. We're on this journey. And just like a GPS, when you get off course, you redirect. Yeah. We can do that every single day.
That's so good. The word is grace. Give your team grace, give yourself grace. I was today years old when I found out that you're a veteran. So thank you for your service. I appreciate you, Bobby. And thank you for being here. Thank you for being here on the Limitless Leadership Podcast. Any parting words of wisdom for our audience before we cut you loose?
Well, I'm so grateful and honored to be on the podcast. I love the work that you're doing. I would just say to every single person, whether you have the title or the position of leadership, you are a leadership. You are a leader. You've got influence. There are people that look to you and your words matter. And so I would just encourage you to take time every single week to carve out time to say, man, I want to grow. I want to grow as a leader. I want to learn people skills. I want to learn about emotional intelligence. I want to learn about how to navigate conflict. Pick a skill and focus on it. And I think you'll have less stress. You'll sleep better. Your spouse may see the change in you, and the people around you will get better at the same time.
Love that. What a powerful episode, powerful message. Thank you again for being here, Bobby. This hopefully will not be your last time on the podcast. I can tell there's going to be a lot of nuggets that you can provide, not just from this one episode. So thank you for being here.
I'd love to be back. And if I can serve your audience in any way, the easiest place to find me is just at BobbyMcGraw.com. Whether it's faith or work or coaching, any of those things, I'd be honored to walk alongside anybody as you take your next step in going pro as a leader.
Thank you for sharing that. And forgive me, because typically I ask, like, how can our audience get in touch with you? And in the middle of you sharing your last message, I'm thinking, man, he's already a busy man. He's got 40 people he's leading at church. He's got 400 volunteers. But yes, if you're listening and just because I do coaching as well doesn't mean that Bobby might not be the better fit for you. So please reach out to Bobby. You said BobbyMcGraw@gmail.com.
Just go to the website, BobbyMcGraw.com, and you can find all things, whether it's faith or leadership or coaching or speaking. And, maybe I'm not the fit for everybody, but if I can encourage you in some way and help you take a next step, I'd be honored to be part of that conversation.
Love it. Yeah. Please go visit BobbyMcGraw.com. Bobby, thanks for being here. And thank you for tuning in. Every week, you know that we look to transform our leadership skills by tapping into unrecognized potential to achieve limitless results. So thanks again for tuning in to the Limitless Leadership Podcast. Have a great day, everyone. Don't forget to smile today. Tell your loved ones how much they mean to you. I'm Josh Parnell, reminding you to keep leading well.